Get on your palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? Was you here for the first time? What brings you here?
I've been wanting to come for a while, and I had a friend who told me that it was going on, and now is the time.
Nice. Well, we're glad you're here. Your friend told you good things about it?
Yes.
He didn't tell you to come dig dirt 3 weeks ago?
No.
You skipped that day. Well, we're glad you're here. Welcome.
I've been looking for some place to come for quite a while.
Yeah.
And when I read about here, I felt like it was going to be a little less boring and maybe a little easier, more accessible to kind of get to know a little more and why I might feel more comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you just summed up why we started this 18 years ago. To really make the teachings accessible for the average Western person and how to apply this to day-to-day life. Because the teachings in and of themselves are really pretty basic, but the application of them is really difficult, So, yeah, we're glad you're here. Anyone else, first time? What brings you here? Another hand? Those of you, yeah? Oh, no. Those keep coming back. Why do you show up? What's the reason? Yeah.
It is helping me deepen my practice and to have compassion on myself.
Yeah, deepen your practice and have compassion for yourself. Yeah, what else? Why show up?
More meditation and Sangha.
More meditation. What is Sangha? What is Sangha to you, for those who don't know that word?
This community.
Community, yeah. What else? Why show up? Yeah.
It's helping me develop empathy.
Develop empathy. How does that change? How do you think that impacts your life, the more empathy you have?
Makes me feel better in general about myself and just people in general, the people that I'm around and interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Even the people that I would normally consider to be my enemies.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing. What else? Why show up? Yeah.
This is just a pleasant environment to be in.
Mm-hmm. Pleasant environment, yeah, for sure.
The harder the world gets, the more to come to remember and be in the practice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of people's questions right now are around, well, these days, in these situations, right? It's a common theme around places like this. And it's always a reminder that our lives, present day, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years from now, are always going to be filled with chaos and difficulty and challenges. And sometimes for some people, that chaos and difficulty and challenge is more extreme. And sometimes for equal amounts of people, that chaos and challenges and difficulties are gone. So it's always important to understand that, as things occur in our lives, for many people, lives get more difficult. And for many people, lives get simpler. That's the reality. And so the challenge is, how do we respond on whatever side of that difficulty or easiness we're on? How do we respond in this world that we have to live in? And in these cities that we have to live in, and in these communities that we have to live in. And that's, for me, one of the most beautiful things about Sangha, about community, is that when you bring places together, or people together in places like this, it's important to understand that you all don't think the same way. You all don't believe the same things. You all don't want the same things. You all perceive other people differently. And it's a reminder that you can sit in a room, in a space, in a temple with, I promise you, people who have the exact opposite views of you right now in this room. And yet for the next 52 minutes or whatever it is, you're all going to sit here peacefully. Don't forget that. You can be at peace within all of the chaos. You can be at peace sitting with and in the same space as somebody who completely disagrees with everything you think. And these people will also walk outside these walls and get into their cars or bikes or buses or whatever means, or walking or whatever mode of transportation they took to get here, and they will interact with you throughout your day. And my guess is nobody in here is going to scream and yell at anybody walking out this door going to get your shoes from the shoe rack, right? Which means you can also function in your day. Well, maybe you guys will. Other than the two in the front row, most people are not going to yell at each other in here. You're not going to throw nasty posts at each other in here. You're not going to judge too much more than you normally would the people in this room, because you're going to make some assumption about them, which is also false. But that's just your assumption. But people in here will tell themselves that people who come to places like this must be a certain way. They're not. You know what they are? They're human, and they're struggling, and they're sad, and they're angry, and they're stressed, and they're depressed, and they're anxious, and they're trying to get through their day just like you are. Just as is every single person outside these walls. So if you can treat people inside here with love and kindness and compassion, then you can treat people outside of here with love and kindness and compassion. When you stop the judgment and you practice what the Buddha actually taught. That's it. Buddhist teachings are so simple. Very, very simple. The challenge is, how do we practice them? How do we apply them? How do we bring them into our day-to-day lives? Otherwise, it's just some other cool, thing that you got involved with for a while, Anyway, so with that, we'll start with the meditation. For those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free to say hello as you are. There's a chat box on your screen somewhere. A couple things I'll tell you for those who might be brand new with meditation practice. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide in the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight. Relaxing the hands on the lap or the knees, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, just means you need to move. If you cough, don't feel like you have to hold it in, just cough. If you're sick, please go home and come back next week. But you don't need to restrict yourself, just be natural. Most important for those who are new, do not expect anything. Your mind will not shut off, it will not go blank, you will not think nothing. We're just going to sit and breathe. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed, whatever's comfortable. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, feel them fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in. Follow breath in. Breathing out. Follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness. In quiet. Wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's not from anything I said. It's not from how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all you're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can then make changes in your life. This practice is a concentration and focus on the present moment, not escaping from present moment. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. That's it. That's why for me, I really don't like to complicate Buddhist teachings and Buddhist practice. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds, and bring that into your life. They say the Buddha taught the same thing for 80,000 different ways for 45 years, all based on the Four Noble Truths. It's the first thing he taught. Life is filled with suffering, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction. Things don't go our way. We don't like it. That's our life every day. From extreme, heavy trauma, death, loss, to little things. Coffee made the wrong way, traffic not going how you wanted, your shirt doesn't look the same way it did on you last year. Whatever, little stuff. So we experience these things every day. The second is the cause. What is the cause of this discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction? And that's our greed, anger, and ignorance, our cravings, our desires. This notion of us wanting the world to go exactly how we want it to go, based on our perceptions, because of course we think our perceptions are correct. It's amazing to be in a room with so many people whose views are right. It's nice to sit with you all, but we have our views, we think we're right. And when the world doesn't work that way, we get angry. And this isn't about you being right or wrong. This isn't about anyone being right or wrong. This is about you understanding that you have your views. And when the world doesn't work according to your views, you don't like it. That's to me what the Buddha was teaching. To be aware of that. And so we practice generosity to overcome greed and craving and desire. We practice compassion to overcome the anger that we carry in our hearts and our minds for so many years. And we practice wisdom, the cultivation of wisdom to overcome the ignorance that we have in our minds. The ignorance being that we think we're correct and that everybody else is wrong. Third thing he says is there's an ending to our suffering, a cessation to the suffering, liberation, nirvana, freedom from suffering. For me, I just think of it as having a good day, and not a good day because you got everything you wanted, but a good day because you, in your mind and in your heart, were at peace. You. Not the world, not your communities. That's not this practice. This practice is about you, which ultimately goes on to tell you that there is no you. But we got to start somewhere. You have to understand you, as Dogen said, the great Zen master, he'd say you have to get to know the self before you can get rid of the self. So get to know your mind, get to know your heart, get to know your emotions, get to know your thoughts, get to know your words, get to know your actions. Really pay honest and close attention to everything you think and say and do. Not to judge yourself, not to think you're right or wrong or good or bad, not to think you're better than anybody else or worse than anyone else, not to compare, but just to observe. Become the observer of all the craziness that is in your head. Watch it. Because if you're being honest, it's going to take a long time to watch it. Right? It's not like 5 minutes and then the show is done. Right? Watch it every day. Get to know the madness that's in your own head. And then the fourth is the path. The fourth noble truth, to overcome this suffering, discomfort, angst, and that's the Eightfold Path. Becoming aware of our views and our thoughts and our speech and our actions and our livelihood and our effort and our mindfulness and concentration. That is the Eightfold Path, 8 steps. Become aware of moral, ethical conduct and behavior. Become aware of the cultivation of meditation and mindfulness practices. and become aware of the ignorance that is within all of us. So that's it. And that just repeats every single day. That's why this practice is so fun. Because you're just like, man, I mean, it's like, that's it. I mean, yeah, there's 80,000 different ways to spin it. And every modern day for today, and every teacher, Buddhist writer, author, monk, nun, guru, lama, everybody for the last 2,500 years has spun it in their way. That's all they're doing. They're retelling what they think the Buddha said. And we all respond to things differently. So there are different people we'll read, or different, people we'll learn from or listen to, or different YouTube videos we'll watch to learn about the Dharma. And those are all wonderful. Explore them all. But ultimately, it's hopefully bringing you back to paying attention to the one person that is the cause of every moment of suffering in your life. And that is you. That's it. So, congratulations. So with that, I'll pause. Just for me, prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those who are here virtually, welcome, glad you're here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning for questions.
So I started coming here in January, and I, at the time, felt like I was, in a much more peaceful, calm place than most people. And I'm just realizing, maybe in the last 2 weeks, that I'm feeling a lot less calm and peaceful, because I'm maybe a little more aware of what's really going on inside. And you always say profound things, but
Yeah.
something you just said in the last few minutes, I was like, oh, it's like getting in touch with that I'm not so calm and peaceful inside, and I need to explore that.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling like, oh, I'm a happy person, but really getting there. So thank you.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And just to kind of paraphrase that for those virtually didn't hear it, and then just to add a few thoughts to kind of expand on that for those who might be new. Your comment was that you started attending in January. And at that time, you considered yourself kind of a calm, peaceful person, and here we are 6-7 months later, and you're starting to realize over the last couple of weeks that maybe you're not as calm and peaceful as you thought you were. And something I just said kind of triggered that as a reminder to you. And I think that to me, one of the things I often say is early on in practice, and especially the first couple of years, this doesn't necessarily make life easier. Often we come into Buddhism or meditation because for whatever reason, you're unhappy, you're exploring, you're curious, your therapist sent you, your friend sent you, your partner sent you because you're a mess. Whatever reasons we end up here, we end up here. And early on, we think like, okay, well, I'm there. I want to do this thing because I'm going to meditate and, my life's going to get better. But if you're real with yourself, and that's what I'm hearing you say, is you're starting to be real with oh, there's a lot. And I can't just sweep everything under the rug and assume everything's fine just because I meditate now and I'm all, good. No, if you're honest and you're open and you're looking at your mind the same way you would explore, anything that's just really important to you to understand. Because a lot of people come in, this isn't the nature of your question, but a lot of people come into Buddhism looking to fix things. They don't like the way things are. They don't like the way the world is. They don't like the way whatever is. So they want to fix things. And to me, Buddhist practice to fix the self requires a really long time of getting to know what is it I'm even trying to fix. And that's not an easy nor necessarily fun process, what a nightmare it's been to get to know this thing in my own head. Just an absolute disaster, but that's where you start. And so, yes, you're right on pace. Not that you were looking for validation or anything, but that's pretty standard early on. When I say it gets harder, that's kind of what I mean, because it allows us to see, like, okay, what am I really working with? And as we begin to open up these emotions and these views and these attachments to views, attachments to our perceptions, attachments to our sense of self, we start to see, wow, there is so much of a bigger picture here that we've never even looked at. And I think that's a really beautiful kind of place to be at, and scary at times, for sure. People often talk about how scary this practice is, and I think that's part of it, is it can get kind of scary when you start to explore like the nature of your own mind, because it's not always so pretty, you know? That's why I love, none in here specifically, the one on the outside of the doors there, where you enter the main hall, right above it on the outside, is a very small tanka. And it's a version of Mahakala. It's a Tibetan, these tankas, these 4 art pieces up front, the one in the back corner, they're called tankas. They're Tibetan versions, or Tibetan art pieces that are used very much in Buddhist practice for kind of contemplation, a lot of teachings in them, and that lineage tradition, they'll use them as a big form of practice. So they all have representations. And that one, Mahakala, any sort of Mahakala, they're called wrathful deities. And we often think of the Buddha as being this, like, you know, peaceful, beautiful image. If you're new to it, you think that, like, I'm just going to sit under a tree and everything's going to be wonderful and peaceful. But what are you sitting with? And so we see these peaceful images of the Buddha, but often we think that that's what we're trying to portray. But when we see that image, what's actually going on the inside? So these wrathful deities are painted to actually show you, like, this is what you are on the inside. And it's fierce, and it's ugly, and it's angry, and it's upset, and it's bothered, and it's triggered, and it's just like wanting to kill. And then through practice, you transform that. But the beauty of looking at these images is to be at peace with that also. So, yeah, thank you. What else? There's a question here. Jeff, would you please address anxiety and panic attacks? Yeah, I mean, these are very real and also very Western psychological terms for at the foundation, I think, of why many people come into meditation and Buddhist practice is to deal, as I always say, anger, stress, anxiety, sadness, and depression. And, I can't speak to anxiety or panic, but I can speak to me from looking at Buddhist teachings what the cause of anxiety and the cause of panic is, which is fear and one's ability to try to control everything. And as opposed to being with life as it arises. So very basic Buddhist teachings on using sensation of breath. As the Buddha taught, if you're breathing in and taking a short breath, know you're breathing in and taking a short breath. If you're breathing out, taking a long breath, know you're breathing out, taking a long breath. You're not analyzing it. You're not trying to understand it. You're not trying to figure out if it's right or wrong or good or bad. You're learning to be present with the breath. For me, that's how I was trained. Sit with the breath. Whatever else is going on is going on. All that is happening in your moment after moment, is you and your breath, and learn to be with that. And then when you can learn to be with that, then you can take that into the world, and you could observe the world and all the injustices going on in the world and all the disgusting, horrific things going on in the world and all the terror going on in the world. And you could observe that. But you know what you are? You're with your breath. And potentially lots of privilege as well. But you're with your breath. And so you become aware of, I can't control things. I can't fix everything. I can be mindful and aware of my breath, so when I go into situations I don't like, I can work from the cultivation of love and kindness and compassion to try to make a difference. But panic and anxiety is control and fear of how things are going to turn out. And I say this, it'll maybe sound jokingly, but very serious as well. For me, growing up and getting into Buddhist practice, panic and anxiety was never my thing. Never had anxiety my entire life. Anger and depression, definitely. But I could never relate to panic and anxiety, no matter how many years I spent working with people who live in panic and anxiety, which is like 30 years, long time. I'm getting older. When I say 30 years, I was like, wow. It's not so much that I turned 50 that sounded old, but now when I say I've been doing that stuff for 30 years, that sounded old, you know? And so I never experienced anxiety the way people describe it. And this, as silly as it sounds, and those of you who know me know, I'm a Cubs fan. And 2016, for the first time in 108 years, the Cubs had an opportunity to win the World Series. Never in my life had I had anxiety or panic or fear as much as I did as watching that baseball game. And like I said, I say this jokingly, but I do not mean to minimize those who deal with tremendous panic and fear and anxiety and have panic attacks. I could not breathe watching this game. To me, that was real. I'm sitting there on a couch watching a baseball game. I couldn't breathe. I've been playing and coaching baseball my whole life. And I had so much anxiety and so much fear and so much worry and so much everything, wanting to control that situation. There in Cleveland, I'm on a couch in San Diego. I got nothing to do with that game. And all of a sudden I couldn't breathe, couldn't talk to anyone, couldn't move, just get away from me. So for the first time in my life, I was like, damn, people live with this every single day. So I'm really not trying to minimize the seriousness of panic and anxiety. But from my lens, from a Buddhist practice, it comes down to what are we trying to control? What are we afraid of? Panic and anxiety are emotions that rise and fall just as every other emotion. Sadness, depression, happiness, joy, beauty, all these things, they come and go. The impermanent nature of all phenomena. They will rise and they will fall away. So if you really want to address panic and anxiety, I think it's important to continue to cultivate a daily meditation practice, understand that life doesn't revolve around you, and that the world will continue on whether we are here or not. And to some extent, you surrender to this idea of trying to control outcomes. It doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean you stop fighting for what you believe in. But take care of yourself. What else?
Can you share some thoughts about the inquiry to the quality of the mind, not just that it's puppies running around and the awareness to breath, but yeah, what's under, like what's bringing those thoughts, the roots of it, and understanding how we do inquiry of the quality?
So your question is around understanding the quality, inquiry into the quality of the mind, not just, as you said, the puppies running around or, things like that, but what's behind the thoughts? Is that kind of what you're getting at? What causes the thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah. So think about, you ever cooked a meal? Are there meals that you've cooked over and over and over again and you just know how to make them? You don't need to look at a recipe anymore because you've done it 1,000 times. And then there's a meal, something you want to prepare, maybe you've never made before. And you have to look step by step at the recipe, right? What do you need? Even go to the grocery store, certain things you want to make, you don't even need to look at the list, Other things you want to make for the first time, you got to figure out what goes into it. How much do I need? How do I prepare it? How long do I cook it? All that kind of stuff, right? So in Buddhism, we call causes and conditions. And this is the idea that our mind is just conditioned based on everything that happened prior. So the reason I use kind of cooking is it's something that requires steps to get to the point where the meal is cooked and you can eat. So to the point where the meal is cooked and you can eat, that's kind of that thought, that end result. Because to me, what you're asking about is what's below the thoughts. So it's kind of a weird way to draw a parallel, but the meal is the thought. So what went into that thought is every single experience you have had every single moment of your life. Often we say, well, the thought just came out of nowhere. No, it came from somewhere. It came from your experiences. It came from someplace in your subconscious that gave you some feeling, some sensation, and thoughts arise. No matter how random they are, the thoughts arise based on past experiences. So for me, does that make sense so far? Yeah. In Buddhism, they call it alaya vijnana, storehouse consciousness, right? Without getting too far into this, Nagarjuna was a 4th century Buddhist philosopher, Nagarjuna, and they say he was one of the wisest next to the Buddhist teachings, right? Kind of since the Buddhist teachings. And he says that it's the text is fundamental wisdom in the middle way. And he says you can't have something come from nothing. So a thought doesn't just occur from nowhere. It comes from somewhere. Everything in our entire existence comes from something, right? So to the quality of the thoughts, for me, yes, it's one thing to explore the quality of our thoughts in each moment, the nature of the thoughts, the intention in each thought. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Is it neutral? As Buddhist teachings, right? Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Thoughts, words, actions. Where do they fall? Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. So when we're looking at the nature of our thoughts, it's one thing to understand the nature of our thoughts and maybe understand past experiences, but equally, if not more important, is from this moment on, going forward, how do I cultivate a quality of thought that is wholesome, beneficial, kind? These are kinds of things we want to work on, right? And my guess is you're not here because you want to cultivate more angry, miserable thoughts, right? We got enough of those. So the question then is, how do we begin to cultivate a quality of mind that is wholesome, that is pure, that is kind, that is gentle? Well, what do we look at all day long? Where do we go all day long? Who do we see all day long? What do we focus on all day long? We are conditioning right now in this moment, also combined with every experience that's ever occurred in your entire, we'll just take this life, forget about countless lives before that. It's hard enough to just deal with this life. But all of your past experience led you to this moment, and every single experience you have in this moment going forward is going to continue to bubble up into that meal. So the practice to cultivate wholesome thoughts is to surround yourself with wholesome places, wholesome ideas, wholesome people, wholesome, it's why social media, it's why I share like baby goats and puppies and babies. I mean, what's more pure and beautiful than that, right? There's a lot of stuff to look at out there, a lot of stuff to read, a lot of stuff to consume. What we consume in our consciousness becomes our thoughts and our words and our actions. So if one wants to change the nature and quality of their thoughts, we have to change. I know when I came back from the monastery, the people and places I went to for my entire life, I spent like 2 to 3 years, I couldn't even be around them. Now that was also a little dangerous because I was doing it from a judgment standpoint of thinking I was better than they were. And ultimately it shouldn't matter where you are. But if you're trying to train and cultivate your mind into being a peaceful, wholesome thing, you probably shouldn't spend time in places that are not so peaceful, not so wholesome, and not beneficial for you or others. Does that help at all? Yeah.
Who is the thinker?
I don't know. You ever read the Sherm? The question was, who is the thinker? Right? Isn't that a famous statue of views like this? Right? Yeah. Rodin? I figured there'd be somebody in here. Yeah, Rodin. Ask Rodin. No, but seriously, the question of who is the thinker. So there's two kind of core Buddhist teachings. One, which is the teaching of non-self, right? This idea that Brad has a story about who Brad is, and all Brad's experiences give you, this kind of story you'd say about yourself, right? And you've been telling that story forever. And when you were born, your parents or somebody gave you, and they're like, well, we'll call this Brad. And then Brad became a box, a story that you've put little experiences into your whole life. And as you got older, the story grew and grew and grew. And then you got old enough to think like, this is Brad. And Brad's the thinker, and this is Brad's body. Brad's those are just like letters that came together to give you a name and an identity that you stuck to, and you have altered and changed, and that you continue to think you have to change and fix and be better at, right? It's just a word. Ultimately, the teachings of non-self say you are nothing but a trillion experiences over a trillion years. So drop the label and the story of who you think you are and how good you are, how bad you are, how right you are, how wrong you are. To me, this is the practice of non-self. The second piece to this is the Shurangama Sutra. The Buddha asked one of his disciples to locate the mind. And I'll save you the reading, but he doesn't find it. So we think like, well, there's the brain. But the brain, maybe that stores this mind, but what is this mind coming from? Past what? Experiences. Right? So, I don't know, who is the thinker? It's not Brad. Those are just experiences and thoughts, but you don't own them. They're not even real. They're just illusions. They're just stories. We'll make up stories all day long today that aren't even real. All of you are doing it right now as I'm talking. You all have some perception about what I'm saying, and you're all wrong. So am I. I haven't said anything correct in the last 54 minutes. I'm just saying stuff. It's like Charlie Brown, like the wah, wah, wah. That's all this stuff is. Wah, 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 go. So enjoy. Baby goats, puppies. Laugh. Drop the judgment, drop the stories, laugh and enjoy, because we're going to die. And we don't know when. It could be today, it could be 100 years from now. But all the story that you've carried your whole life, set it down. Stop telling it. I am this and I am that, and this is my trauma, and this is my story, and this is what I need to fix, this is what I need to say, People spend their entire life in therapy. Half the people here are in therapy, half of you are therapists. I get it. But we spend our entire life trying to fix things instead of just living. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. Stop harming self and others, even though there is no self to harm. Yeah, one more and then we'll close.
So continuing on with, drop labels, drop, your own assessments, etc. How do you then apply that to do good thoughts, do good deeds, do good, etc.? These aren't those in and of themselves labels. Like,
Yeah.
What is good, what is bad?
Yeah, they are. Drop those two. Yeah. Years ago, somebody asked, his name is Venerable Master Hui Guang. He's grew up here in San Diego, Rancho Bernardo. Started at Shifang Temple, the old temple I was at. He was there for a very long time. And then, maybe 6-7 years. Graduated UCSD, then went to Taiwan, ordained as a monk, and was with the same place I was at. He was there maybe 15 years. He eventually left, started his own temple in Taiwan, and but just a really smart dude. Been a monk for the last probably 30 years. And when you asked that question, it reminded me of this, and I'll share this and then close. Someone said to him that when they went to a Zen center, and the Zen center on their shrine had just a rock. And a lot of very traditional old school Zen centers may have no Buddha statue whatsoever, right? There's an expression in Zen, we say, see the Buddha, kill the Buddha, right? It just means that even this idea of a Buddha is also an illusion. We have a story we say about the Buddha. We have a story we say about Owen. We have a story we say about Jeff. We make up these stories and then we give them like meaning. And then we operate from those stories, which is the nature of your question. And it's really about the emptiness practice, but let me sum this up. What he said was, so they asked about this rock. And he said, is it important, to have a rock on your shrine or like a Buddha statue? And his response was, if you understand truly that there's no difference in the rock or the Buddha statue, then you just need a rock. But if you don't understand that, if you still think that there's a difference between the rock and the Buddha statue, then use the Buddha statue until you understand that there is no difference between the statue and the rock. So to your question, if you can abide your entire life in thinking good thoughts, speaking good words, and doing good deeds, truly, it's the way we define them as unenlightened beings. If you can abide by that every moment, then by all means, drop the labels and drop the definitions and drop the story behind it. But if you're still struggling to do that, then use them as kind of, markers along the way, guideposts along the way to eventually drop it. Because yes, those are also just labels and projections and ideas. The entire basis of Buddhist teachings, he was just some dude making stuff up. That's all he was. He died at 80. And here we are 2,500 years ago, still talking about the stuff he said. And, I can't speak for anybody here, but still struggling miserably to try to get it all, into a day. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Pam during her time of suffering, and to Mark and their family who suffer at this time. All right, a few quick announcements before you all head out to kindly get your shoes. We opened up this temple 18 years ago. My name is Jeff. We started this to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up, those of us who leave. We're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers. We're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different people leading from a different Buddhist tradition. Every Thursday, 4:30, we do, I think, one of the best things around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals, also known as peanut butter and jelly, and we feed people who sleep on the sidewalk. So if you think your life sucks and you don't have any gratitude for all you have in your life, which I'm sure is probably a decent amount, feed people who sleep on a sidewalk every night. It tends to put things in perspective. And if that doesn't work, keep showing up until it does. So that's every Thursday, 4:30. A couple things out of the ordinary coming up, or just out of our normal schedule. The San Diego Pride Parade is Saturday, July 19th. So as a temple, we will again be marching to the Pride Parade. If you go to the website, top right corner, you'll see Pride Parade 2025. You can sign up there. 10 a.m. on Saturday, we will march. So if you want to march with the temple, you can march with us. And then Monday morning, all this info is also on the website, same page. Monday morning, after the 2-day festival, Balboa Park's kind of a mess after like 100,000 people, have fun for 2 days. So we have sworn for all of eternity to help clean up Balboa Park that Monday morning. Not that many people come back for that, so they really rely on our help. That's Monday morning from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're doing 2 shifts for those of you who are weak and can't handle the whole day. That's a joke. 7 a.m. to noon and noon to 5. So you can sign up if you want to help out. We definitely need help on that Monday. Otherwise, Eric, you have an announcement? Figuring that's why you're here.
Well, it's not just fine. I come here for a reason. Next Sunday, the 13th, the Social Science is hosting a picnic at the Presidio Park around lunchtime, 12:30. Info on the website, I assume?
Yep.
Facebook, etc.
Thank you. And also that Sunday, I think at 2:00, if you want to help make signs, we're having a sign making party. So all the cool signs we made for last year's Pride Parade, we're going to make more. So if you want to come and make signs, we'll be making signs, I think, at 2:00, and you can write all kinds of cool, fun, dumb Buddhist pride, Zen jokes and things like that. So thanks all for being here. Buddha for you is downstairs in case you need a rock. And see you soon.
Thank you, Jeff. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Do you want to, like, now?